For nearly 40 years, Jim Jennings was known as the American Quarter Horse Association's man behind the camera. Hired by AQHA in the fall of 1971, Jim brought his love of the American Quarter Horse to his dream job. 2 years out of college at Texas A&M University, he came to Amarillo via Fort Worth, where he worked for the Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association's publication, The Cattleman. Jim took his role on the staff of the Quarter Horse Journal with extreme pride, wanting to capture the essence of every AQHA member he interviewed. He stored details of owners, bloodlines, and particular breeding crosses in his memory for further use down the road. Recalling riders' names and horses' accomplishments at the drop of a hat was just part of the job. But as the association grew and decades went by, it became evident Jim's knowledge of the American Quarter Horse and his natural storytelling ability was unique. Jim was first hired as associate editor and advanced through the ranks of the journal as editor, then editor-in-chief, and eventually executive director of publications, overseeing the entire publications department. He saw magazines go from cut-and-paste production to digital publishing, as well as the beginnings of the quarter horse industry coverage on the internet. Jim always looked to the future to make sure the publications department was ready for the next step in technology. Under his leadership, 2 new magazines were introduced. The Quarter Horse Racing Journal focused on the racing industry and was first published in January 1988. A decade later, America's Horse debuted as a magazine dedicated to the everyday AQHA member. Later in his career, Jim made it a priority to capture quarter horse history through video interviews with legendary early horsemen who helped shape the association. Just 3 years into his career at AQHA, Jim was presented a Wrangler Award, which is equivalent to an Academy Award for Western art, literature, and movies by the National Cowboy Hall of Fame and Western Heritage Museum. He earned the honor for the journal article, "George Humphreys, a Half-Century with the 4 Sixes." Opportunities to capture the essence of the American Quarter Horse led him across the globe and from one end of the country to another, including Pennsylvania Avenue in 1981. There, Jim represented AQHA at President Ronald Reagan's inauguration, organizing and documenting the American quarter horses in the President's Horse Parade. Jim wrote countless articles about AQHA presidents, super horses, ranchers, racehorses owners, and everyday members. He wrote 2 books for the association. Published in 2006, Best Remudas chronicled the first 15 recipients of the AQHA Best Remuda Award. Stellar photography and stories earned the book multiple honors. When AQHA celebrated its 50th anniversary in 1990, the association published They Rode Good Horses to commemorate the 50-year history of AQHA. It only seemed fitting for Jim to write a follow-up to that book. So in 2014, after his retirement from AQHA, he wrote They Still Ride Good Horses, detailing the association's history of the most recent 25 years. Under his direction for 37 years, AQHA Publications received hundreds of awards for journalism excellence. Jim was honored by his peers in the publishing community with induction into the Livestock Publications Council Hall of Fame and by American Horse Publications with its Champion Award. Since his retirement, Jim continues to research and chronicle Western history as a writer for Red Steagle is Somewhere West of Wall Street, featured on RFD TV. Jim's work on the television program has earned him 2 more Wrangler Awards. Family is important to Jim and his wife Mavis, and they made sure that their daughter Jill learned to appreciate the American Quarter Horse. They also passed down their love for the breed to their son-in-law, Doug Dunkel, and 3 grandchildren, Ashton, Sydney, and Blake. Jim can often be found at their home team roping with the family. From roping calves in the 1950s and 1960s to watching his grandkids compete and win AQHA World Championships decades later, Jim's passion for American quarter horses will continue thanks to the legacy he leaves with his family. With millions of photos and thousands of articles, Jim spent his career documenting the history of the American quarter horse. From world champions to working cowboys, he weaved their tales into entertaining documentaries that retained each individual's unique and special place in AQHA's past. Now, we have the honor of welcoming the man behind the camera, Jim Jennings, into the American Quarter Horse Hall of Fame.